You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by the handsome and talented Andrew Ellis. We're here. It is Wednesday, May 7th. The Arkansas Razorbacks have a huge series this weekend against the LSU Tigers. So we've got a very special guest on the show, very special guest here on this program, Matthew Beck, legendary pitcher at LSU. You probably remember him from his time as a Tiger. If you do, and there really is probably a few Razorback fans listening that like vaguely do remember the middle reliever from LSU. Maybe you do. He did have some success against Arkansas. We're going to talk about that. But it's one of my best buddies in the world, Matthew Beck, who pitched with me at Ash. We were former Ash Trojans. Matt, this is a little bit of a weird full circle moment because you and I have talked baseball so much over the years. We've talked about Arkansas. We've talked about LSU, had our debates about anything involving Arkansas baseball or whatever it is. So it's cool to be having you now on the program as a celebrity guest and here on this massive platform that we've built.
Yeah, thank you for having me, brother. It's been a long time coming. I know that we've had our spirited debates here or there, and every year I get the time hop notification. I think we were like juniors or seniors in high school, and I tweeted out, "Hey, like for Andrew Benintendi or retweet for Alex Bregman." And I put in our football group. I was like, "Hey, y'all go like this for me, please."
Yeah, to a group of complete LSU fans. Yeah, the votes were pretty weighty. But yeah, I remember those heated Benintendi Bregman debates, and I'm going to give Bregman the nod. I think he's over time. It's been like 12 years now. I think he's earned the nod. He's better than Andrew Benintendi. But it wound up being pretty cool because both those guys are still playing in the MLB today.
Look, we know what we were talking about. Just a bunch of baseball, just wise guys, just forecasting the future.
Yeah, it's really awesome. But no, honestly though, and on a serious note, I learned a lot about baseball from just hanging out with you, playing baseball with you back in the day on those battles in the foxhole with the Ash Trojans. We had so much success out on the field together. One of us pitched better against West Monroe. It's neither here nor there. We don't have to talk about that here on the show. But I also, of course, watching your journey from being a redneck from Alexandria, Louisiana, and going and pitching in the SEC, spending 5 years in the SEC. Like, we talk about your baseball career a lot. Hell, I normally never say stuff like this to your face, but it was really impressive, watching someone from our hometown go out there and make it in the SEC. I've got your numbers right here. We're gonna have to, we don't have to talk about your entire career, but I want the audience to know this is not just some random old schmuck here. So Matthew Beck here threw, 118 innings and 119 strikeouts. Good ratio. I like that. You appeared in 80 games for the LSU Tigers. Career ERA. Could you guess your career ERA?
I think it was on track to be like sub 2 at one point, wasn't it? But
so you ended up at 2.59, which basically, if you take out your first 2 years, you probably were. It was close because, I mean, hell, you're before COVID ended 2020. I think you had thrown like 12 scoreless innings, so you were on a pretty good pace there for 5 years, and that's not a small sample size. 2.59 ERA, pretty good. Your numbers against Arkansas, I got to say, disturbingly good, and really that's probably gonna be the first thing we talk about. In 3 outings against Arkansas, you threw 7 innings, allowed 2 runs, both of which came in your last outing, but you had your first career win against Arkansas in 2017, and then I think your first career save the next year in 2018, which is kind of messed up. But let's talk about that first career win, because I feel like that was a big moment in both of our lives, honestly. Because everyone is obviously celebrating you and your success, and how good for Matthew, he gets his first win. I remember vividly, I was working at Johnny's Pizza in Ruston, and I was delivering pizzas, and I was watching that game on my phone, and Arkansas was up like 9-5. And I remember you coming in the game, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. He can throw his inning, and we're all good. LSU ends up coming back and winning. What do you remember about that moment back your freshman year, 2017, probably one of your first big SEC outings? You get your first career win, and it just so happens to crush your best friend's dreams. What do you remember about that experience at Baum Stadium?
I'm going to take you back one further. I think when we were seniors in high school, we went to a game, like an Arkansas-LSU game, and it was the freaking Rally Possum game. And we ended up leaving in like the 6th inning because Arkansas was spanking our ass, and we were like, yeah, we got a 2-hour drive. Let's just get out of here. And the entire way back, we were like, no, surely. But it felt like that kind of teed it up for our relationship while I was in in college facing the Pigs. But that one, yeah, I remember I thought we were down like 9-1, 8-1, something like that. And because I think, was it Poche or Lang had started that game?
I think this was Poche. You know, what's weird is Arkansas won game one of that series, and it was similar. It was like 10-3, or like it wasn't that close. And I think that was Lang that pitched game one, and then Poche goes game two. And we own Jared Poche. We own Jared Poche. He also pitched the Rally Possum game. So yeah, it was. We had a huge lead, and then LSU kind of chipped it away through. I can't remember, what inning would you have pitched? Like the 8th?
I think it was the 8th, because I'd come in, and I mean, it was like probably not 3 up, 3 down, because I definitely walked somebody just naturally.
You did like to do that.
Yeah, just strike one out, walk one, give up 2 piss missiles right to somebody. That was the MO. But it was like that, literally that type of inning. And like we're sitting in the dugout or whatever, and we start making our way back, and I see Newman getting like ready in the bullpen, who had a pretty good career by that point and like was kind of our closer. And I was like, if we get ahead, I'm definitely not going back in this game. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this. So.
Yeah. Well, because they definitely threw you in a situation where, and to be fair, like you were also like, I mean, you pitched in SEC games before then, but it was like, I think it was like maybe a 3 or 4 run deficit by that point, and it's the 8th inning. So where it's like, you're not going to bring in your dude down 3 or 4 in the 8th. So let's just get this freshman from some experience. You get your 1 inning. You know what? I actually kind of remember what happened, if I'm not mistaken. I think Luke Bonfield got a catcher's interference, which he did religiously. He got like 7 of those that year. And I think he got one against you, and that wound up being it.
He did. Definitely did. And yeah, I remember, because it was also that, I guess the next half of that inning, who's a shortstop?
Biggers, Jax Biggers.
He had like made one of his 2 errors on the year and just held one over the first baseman's head. And we were like, okay, we've got a chance. And then we obviously ended up going and winning. And then Eric Walker, Daddy Eric, should I say, comes in on Sunday and just dices. But I remember when that game ended that I pitched, like literally the first thing I thought about, I was like, I think I just got that win, and this is about to be the best night of my life. Being able to text in our group message and be like, hey, are you going to like call me daddy now, or what's the deal?
Well, dude, you know what's crazy is like that's the one that I always like remember, because it was your first career win, and so just like and by the way, wins are a stupid stat in baseball. We all agree. Like it's a weird premise. So it's not like actually a huge milestone, but it was like a cool moment. But the year after, I actually think that outing was like a more of a you being our daddy, because that one. So, dude, I went back and looked at the play-by-play here. So okay, LSU had pitched Labus. AJ Labus, you remember that cat? He pitched 6 innings. This is a Sunday game in Baton Rouge against the 2018 Arkansas team that finished in the College World Series like finals. Like should have won. And LSU was up like 6 or 7 to 2 or 3, and Arkansas starts coming back. And Labus had gone like 6 innings. Nick Bush came into the 7th inning, did not get an out, and just like gave up like 3 straight hits. And so you came in to like bases loaded, nobody out, and kind of shut down the rally, and then ended up getting the save. Yeah. And it was, I'm pretty sure it was your first career save. So like that one was actually like high leverage, kind of a big deal. And that one stung a little bit more, because that Arkansas team, that was like a team of destiny. I was more devastated by that one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because it was like the stereotypical like Sunday afternoon game, like just kind of like probably almost right now, like however many years ago. And I remember, like, because I think Bain had gotten a big hit too at some point during those 3 innings, and he was obviously at first, and he was a 2-way player that year. But yeah, I think I went like 3 innings, 3 Ks, 3, like it was like 3s all the way around or something like that, except the run portion of that. But yeah, that one felt way more like rewarding to be like, all right, can't say anything now.
Yeah. And that was like a good, like, I mean, the best Arkansas team we've seen to this point. So you faced some like, some big names there. I have to listen. I told you I was going to cue you up for this. Can you name any of the Razorbacks? You struck out 6 Razorbacks in your career, and Hog fans, I think, will like this, because some of these names are like blasts from the past. And some of them are kind of funny.
I'm going to go Shaddy.
You did strike out Carson Shaddy in that 2018 game. That was a big one.
I was going to say most of these would have had to. I don't think maybe one of them came in 17.
I think we were all 18 and 19. By the way, in 19, we don't have to talk about that outing, but you threw in like kind of a weird stretch. I remember DVH after the game saying, I don't know why they threw Matthew Beck. Like, I remember he was confused.
It was Friday. I think we were down like 13-2 or like 13-3 or something like that. And like a little peek behind the curtain, like Coach Mainieri came up to me. He's like, I want to get you ready to start the following weekend. And I forget who we were. I think we had been playing Auburn, actually. He was like, I don't care what the score is. Like, I want you to treat this like a start because you're like going to be starting next weekend for us. Don't think I did, but yeah. So I guess back to the question, Shaddy.
Yeah, you probably there's some that like you have no chance of referencing. I'll just read you the list. You got Jordan McFarland, who was like a guy that was like 6'4", 220. And just never did anything. Like he was like LSU had a couple guys like that. One of those DHs that's like, oh, he's got power, but it just never shows up. So you struck out Jordan McFarland, Jacob Nesbitt, who was like our defensive third baseman, Christian Franklin, who's playing in AAA right now. Like that one aged pretty well. One of the guys you struck out as a fan favorite, Trevor Ezell in 2019. He was disgusting. He was like 5'9", 230 playing first base. Yeah. And he's now like I think he's the hitting coach at SEMO, Southeast Missouri, who eliminated Arkansas in the NCAA tournament last year. So shout out to him. Shout out to Trevor Ezell. I know Hog fans really loved him. You struck him out, so that's a pretty notable one. And so you've got some good moments against Arkansas, and also you have 5 years playing in the SEC, and of course you pitched at Baum. Seriously, what's the best atmosphere though? SEC baseball, like obviously I'm sure you're gonna say Alex Box, but like as a player pitching in, what's like been the toughest environment you'd say to pitch in?
So I will say Baum's definitely up there. A&M's up there. Specifically, my first outing at A&M, like I inherited the ball 5 chant. So like I think McKell had like a 4-pitch walk, and I came in right after and just immediately inherited the ball 5 chant.
Yeah.
But that one was tough. Arkansas obviously is super, super tough. It's kind of funny though, because like we're taking BP before the game. And I remember Clay Moffitt like had a can of dip in his back pocket that was empty, and one of the fans chirped him and was like, "Hey, you probably dip like I don't know whatever he said," but he's like, "Yeah, give me one of yours." And then Yale's fan just throws him his can of dip, and he takes a big old pinch of it. So that was funny, but they're ruthless out there, man. They they know everything about you by the time that you like run out there. Like they were chanting my aunt's name, like ex-girlfriend's names. I was like, oh God, this is tough. Ole Miss was tough because they've switched the bullpen since, but like their old bullpen obviously used to be like you'd run down to the student section and they were just relentless. I'm sure Will West was like leading the charge out there.
Shout out to Will West. We get a Will West drop on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's listening. Shout out to him.
Add him in the tweet. Yeah.
Did you pitch at Duty Noble?
I actually did not.
Gotcha. That's the one. I went to Duty Noble when it was like not exactly popping because this is a Mississippi State team in 2023 that was horrible. They were like it was in May and they were like already eliminated from postseason. So it wasn't peak, but even then, I still think Duty Noble might be like just the most fun park in America.
It was sick because like my freshman year was the last series at the old one. So like we're taking BP that Thursday, or I guess we did a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. So it would have been that Wednesday. Like we got to go out into like the outfield and like the left field lounge and everything, kind of walk around all that stuff. And I mean, it's pretty alarming how some of that stuff was standing. Like you're like, this is not safe at all. And then my junior year was the first year at the new one. So it was like pretty cool to see like how it transited. It was still rowdy as hell, but just like it was like a different vibe. Like it wasn't as like trailer trashy, I guess you could say.
Yeah. It's crazy. I love a park where you can walk all the way around. Any park that you can do that, like any MLB, whatever. That's always the first thing I do when I get in is just do a lap. And it may not seem like a big deal, but as cool as Baum Walker is, as cool as Alex Box is, you can't walk all the way around. You got to like cut off at one point. That's my challenge I'm issuing to both venues. In the next decade, allow me to walk around the entire full circle. But yeah, Duty Noble, they got the people grilling and stuff out there. And at Baum, I don't know if they could do that because the folks in the hog pen out there in left field would actually probably riot. You know, if someone just came and tried to walk through, they were like, no, hell no. So maybe that's not a good idea. So Matt, I want to talk to you about a little bit of a weird moment in your career. Okay. Honestly, we don't talk about it much as I consider myself your mentor in a lot of ways. I don't know if we talk about it a ton, but so your freshman year, you pitched a good bit as a freshman year, of course, got your big win over Arkansas. By the end of the year, you hit what a lot of freshman pitchers hit, and you see it happen every year in college baseball. A freshman that is crushing, and then it gets to about April, about May, and that arm is just dead. And it's just like, you don't know, because as a freshman, you don't know. You're just playing baseball. You don't realize it. But your arm is just not used to it. And I feel like you hit that like freshman wall that a lot of freshmen hit. And so going into that offseason, you go to the Cape, and which I'm sure was an awesome experience. And then you come back the fall, and it was probably the low point of your career. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, by a shadow of a doubt.
And so, I remember in that moment, being your buddy, like kind of finding out like how college baseball works and how all these conversations are going. There was a point where you probably, if it were happening today, you almost certainly would have entered the portal, like for sure. And in fact, even in hindsight, it's kind of like, maybe you should have. But I think you obviously, it was kind of a turning point in your career where you had to figure it out. What do you remember about that time period where, your velo was dipping and you're kind of like, oh, damn, am I going to have to leave? Like, I've had so much fun, but like, is this it for my LSU career? Like, what do you remember about that time period?
Yeah, I mean, playing at LSU was like obviously as a kid, like you're like, hey, I want to go play in whatever pro sport like I can play in. Like it was like, go play for the Astros, or I want to go play football for the Saints or whatever. Like mine was, I wanted to do all that, but first I wanted to go play baseball at LSU. So just getting that opportunity was like a surreal feeling, I mean, I think we were all kind of like, I guess that was like right before our senior year of high school. And it was like, we kind of all lived it together. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, we get there and it's just a different level of a grind. I mean, you think like you come from playing a high school baseball, which is the max, like 35 games, and you play that in the fall at LSU or at any college for that matter. And obviously like transitioning from becoming a quarterback once upon a time, shortstop, a basketball player, all that, like where you just stayed athletic and now all you did was pitch. That was a different, I guess, kind of mindset than I normally had. So I go through my freshman year, had some success with the exception of Tulane. That sucked. That was pretty humbling.
I wasn't going to bring up Tulane. I wasn't going to bring it up.
With that question at first. But yeah, exactly right. Go to the Cape and just kind of like was working on some things mechanically and just really got out of whack. And then come back that fall, pitch, don't do very well. And I sit in Coach Mainieri's office and he's like, obviously you had some success. We're just, if you're wanting to transfer, I understand, because I don't envision you, playing a lot or pitching a lot. I was like, I can't blame you. Like I got suck right now, So it was never like a hard feeling in that. It was kind of that like eye opening, like, hey, here's your first real test of adversity in, the sporting world. But just I told him, I was like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to, be better than I was when I first got here. And really spent that entire kind of from Thanksgiving, I guess, coming back from Christmas break, just reinventing myself and, doing what I could to essentially revamp my mechanics and learn how to throw again, pretty much. So I guess it is, to, again, answer kind of one of your first questions there. Like, it's a different grind than a lot of people realize, because you play, entire fall, you're working out, you come back, you're playing all throughout the week, you play the weekend, you're still going to class, you're still working out. And it's just an adjustment that, obviously some freshmen handle better than others. And, from a physical standpoint, it took its toll. But I think from a mental standpoint, too, it's just a different level. And competing in the SEC and, facing the Arkansas of the world, facing the, who at that point, Texas A&Ms and all those, it's like, this is a different level than I ever thought it would be,
Yeah, you're playing against some dudes who literally go right into playing big league ball, Also, just the throwing workload. Like in high school, I mean, obviously you threw more in games because you were throwing 120 pitches every Thursday or Friday night or whatever. But throughout the week in high school, when you're not throwing, you're playing third base, you're playing shortstop, you're just kind of like, it's not a throwing program. And so even just the throwing throughout the week, actually throwing before the games, it's a very different thing. And even if you're throwing more in games, it's like you could only throw 30 innings in the games in college, but you're every single day you're picking up a baseball doing something. And I think it definitely is a big adjustment. You mentioned, I kind of forgot about this. You mentioned that you in high school, you were playing 2 sports at 1.3. I kind of forgot about this. I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet. You went on a visit, an unofficial visit to Arkansas as a quarterback prospect, which I kind of I forget about sometimes. For those that don't know, Matt was a decent high school quarterback, system quarterback, many would argue. But what's crazy is you actually went on that visit before your big senior year. But there was a point where you were kind of considering maybe playing two sports. And I feel like there was a point where you were like maybe a hotter commodity as a football prospect, at least when we were younger. But then, as you got older, it made sense. But what do you remember about going on an unofficial visit? And you watched an Arkansas-LSU game, of course. You kind of used Arkansas for the ticket, but you wound up watching an Arkansas ass kicking. What about that?
Yeah, that was the coldest freaking experience of my life. That was so miserable. It was. I think we ended up losing 17-0. Was that game? And it was misty rain. It was 30 degrees. It was horrible. But yeah, it was funny. So we showed up. And we don't have cold weather stuff, just because you eat it in Louisiana. But we get up there and we're just have this smorgasbord of warm weather stuff. And Michael has on an LSU beanie as we're there for an Arkansas visit. And somebody comes up to him and they're like, "Hey man, you got to take that off."
Yeah. Just outright wearing the other logo. But hell, bringing a beanie, that's tough. Cause if you don't have the beanie, I mean, in that weather, his ears were probably freezing.
Well, and obviously, Michael, he's the biggest smart ass in the world. So he just, of course, had some little comment back. He's like, "Well, this isn't going to work." Just
yeah. If I can't wear my beanie, then you just let me just go sit in the car then.
Yeah.
Jeez. Love that. Yeah. I kind of forget about that. That was a fun night, for Hog fans that are listening. That was a 2014 and you said 17-0. I'm pretty sure that was Brett Bielema's first SEC win as Arkansas's head coach. So that was a big deal. You mentioned Paul Manieiri a little bit. We talked about him, off air. You've given me plenty of Paul Manieiri stories. How surprised were you whenever you saw he was going to South Carolina? Because at the time, your last year in college was Paul Manieri's last year, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a mutual parting of ways, but everybody assumed he was just retiring and done coaching. To see him get that South Carolina job, what was your reaction and some of your teammates' reactions?
Yeah, I mean, it was because when he retired, we were like, man, I guess he's because his neck had been bothering him and some different stuff. So we were like, yeah, I mean, I understand it. He's been at LSU for 15 years at that point and had a lot of success and obviously just felt like it was the time to kind of hang it up. And we were like, okay, I understand. But yeah, when he took the South Carolina job, we were like, wow, okay, I guess he's, getting back in the saddle. And I wish it was going a little better for him. I know that they've had their struggles this year a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously, like I said, he's had so much success. And I think if you go back and you look at the first year he got to LSU, which would have been 2008, 7 or 8, I think they had a season very similar to the one South Carolina's having right now.
Mm.
And then in 2008, they go, I think maybe got bounced in Omaha, and then obviously 2009 won it. So I mean, there's some history there. So obviously you hope that they get it turned around and all that. But yeah.
So did you and Paul Manieiri? So I think you've had we've talked about this a little bit, but it's always weird with a head coach and pitchers. And I always talk about this with Dave, because Dave Van Horn played second base at Arkansas. I don't know what position was Mainieri. Did he play?
Yeah, I think he was a middle infielder.
He was a middle. I mean, pretty much every head coach is a middle infielder, right? For the most part, it seems that way. But it's always weird because Dave, if you ask Dave, if I ever talk to the infielders at Arkansas, and I'm like, "What's your relationship with Dave?" They're like, "Oh, dude, I have dinner with him on Thursday. I'm going to babysit his kids." Oh yeah, and then I'll talk to the pitchers, and they're like, "Never spoken to the dude in my life. He just does not talk to you at all." But I know you and Paul had some interactions. What was y'all's relationship like?
Yeah, I mean, pretty. We always had a great relationship. Even in that story that I mentioned, when he was, not suggesting, but just hey, if we don't see you playing, if you consider transfer, and I completely understand. There was never a bad moment there. But our relationship obviously grew as it became a fourth year and a fifth year senior, and was one of the only kind of faces from our last 2017 team, which not lost in the national championship. So I'd kind of been around the block by that point. But we always had a great relationship. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's like, at least at our practice, it was like pitchers go to one side of the field, hitters the other side of the field. And it's like you run into each other in the locker room if you're not scrimmaging, you know. So it's funny to hear that's never spoken to the guy, huh?
You know, it's so funny because like, and Paul Manieiri, and not to say that he's not an intimidating figure. I'm sure when you're a freshman, he probably was very intimidating. I'm sure it took you a while to get over that. But like, I think about it with Dave, because Dave is such a like stern. You know, he doesn't really goof off a lot. So I can just imagine as a pitcher, you know, one of the 4 conversations you have with him is him taking the ball from you on the mound. Like, it could just be a little bit weird. But yeah, no, that's interesting with Paul. What else? I had something very important to talk to you about. What was that?
Did you text me about it?
No, I couldn't have texted you about it. I meant to ask you about Drew Bianco, because you told me one of the funniest stories ever. I might actually just need you to tell the story. At 2022, the SEC baseball tournament, and this is the year that Ole Miss wins the title. Yeah. Everyone else thought that Ole Miss was going to fire Bianco that year, and I feel like you remember you telling me this story, and I ended up staying with you that week. Drew and the Bianco family, there was some drama there. I might have to get you to tell this story.
Yeah, so we were at the SEC tournament, and I guess we were. I don't know if it would have been Drew would have still been playing, or I guess he would have had to been. And I was just living in Birmingham, but we just went to the game together. I think Ole Miss was, I forget who they were playing, but I mean, it was like one of those just egregiously late nights at the Met. And I mean, it's past 10 o'clock.
2 rain delays.
And like, there's not a lot of people there because, like you mentioned, I mean, Ole Miss at that point was kind of written off. And I mean, I think they were like having to win an SEC tournament just to get into like the field of 64 or whatever. And so we're sitting there, and I'm sitting with Drew, and this guy from up in the suites just starts howling, like cussing out Coach Bianco and all this. And like, I mean, there was nobody there, so everybody heard it. I mean, it was wild. And then so sure enough, like Drew grabs this, like he points to this guy and like he's like, "Hey, come down here." And so he just immediately like gets in this dude's face, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like had to like pull him off this guy, and it was one of the wilder. I was like, "Drew, like you're still playing, dude. Like, yeah. Like I appreciate you're sticking up for your pops, but I was like, man, like we gotta get you out of here, dude."
That's great. Is Drew still coaching, by the way?
Yeah, so he's actually, I think he's director of player development at Ole Miss.
Oh wow, okay. Well, yeah. Hey, they're having a good year, man. They've Bianco's kind of obviously from that moment. It's funny that they won the title like 2 weeks later, because at that point in time you were like, oh crap, and by the way they lost that game, and everyone in the moment was like, that eliminated, like they're not going to make it. They wound up sneaking in and then just freaking winning out, man. Ended up beating Arkansas in the semifinals. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, Bianco's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence. So it would be kind of funny if Mainieri got it going at South Carolina, and you had all these like old heads that are like still kind of hanging around. Tim Corbin at Vanderbilt, they're kind of having a bounce back year too. This might be the year of the old heads in the SEC baseball. It's pretty cool.
I know, which is wild to think. Like I'm going to sound like a real old head here, but like back when I was in college, like the thought of NIL and the thought of the transfer portal, like when I was in college, like if you transferred, there was still like you sat out a year, for a portion of it. Now it's like seeing those guys adapt is like pretty wild, you know.
I'll never forget getting a text from one of our friends from back home who was like, "Hey, is Matt still playing at LSU? Because I've worked for this company and we want to sign an LSU." And it was like right after your career ended, like the day after. She was like, "Oh yeah, we're trying to get a baseball deal." I'm like, dude, that would have been so clutch. I mean, think about how I know how you were living in college. If you were getting like, you know, a random $500 a month from like random car dealerships, it probably would have made a big difference. Matt, do you remember this picture?
Oh yeah, the cane cutters, baby.
This is good. Hey, look at me decked out in my Arkansas gear there, by the way. This is good. I didn't know if you would remember, but yeah, we were, that was in Acadiana, right? Acadiana cane cutters.
I think I'd pitched that game.
Yeah, no, me and my dad drove down from Pineville. It was like, I guess like an hour drive down. And we were like, yeah, let's go watch Matt play his summer ball in the Texas League. What were the other teams in the Texas League? Every now and then Arkansas will have Jalen Battles played in the Texas League. So you got the Acadiana cane cutters. There's like Texas teams, right? Who else did y'all play?
So I think now they've got the Baton Rouge Rougarou, who they weren't a team when I was in that league, but it's like Texarkana, Victoria, the Brazos Valley Bombers. So like a couple of those are like down in College Station a little bit. And then obviously Texarkana's like there's nothing there. So like at least like when we'd go down to like Brazos Valley and all that, like you were generally close to like a college campus and could do stuff. But like you went to Texarkana, you drove 7 hours in a bus, and you're just like, this is the most miserable thing I've ever done in my life.
Well, dude, it was a pretty good setup for you because I mean, you were, like I said, like an hour from our hometown, an hour from Baton Rouge. It's not like you were that far. I mean, and the Cape is obviously like the Cape you'll do because like it's the Cape. You know, it's the best possible league. Pretty good place to hang out. I would imagine good weather and all that. But I feel bad for the kids that like get that Northwoods League that they're playing for the Bismarck Larks in North Dakota and all that. I'm like, that's tough. It's like 42 degrees at your summer ball game. Like that's tough living there.
I heard those two are like 10 to 12 hours, like just wild.
Yeah, it's pretty. It prepares you for that. If you're gonna play pro and you're gonna play in like the low rookie leagues, that's pretty much what summer ball like. It's a good like test for that. Yeah, and like living with random people, I always think I didn't know that until you were playing in the Cape, and you're like, yeah, I'm living with a random family. I'm like, that's what they do. They send them up there. You just host. There's people that sign up to just foster you for 3 months or whatever. I'm like, it's the craziest concept ever. One thing I want to ask you about, Matt. So I've got a buddy, my other athlete friend, who is a former fighter. Shout out to JT Hazelwood. I know he's listening. But he was telling me when he got done fighting. Now fighting is a little bit different than baseball, of course. But when he got done fighting and he realized he wasn't going to make it to the UFC, he was like he kind of stopped watching fight. Like he couldn't watch it anymore because he was like the game didn't love me back. So like I'm like out on it or whatever. I wondered, did you have anything like that with baseball? I don't know if we've ever really talked about this, but like once you got done playing, was it like hard for you to watch LSU games because you're like, damn, I was just there, you know, like was that kind of a process for you?
Yeah, I think like initially like I was a little jaded by it just because like I'd gotten hurt my 5th year. Like I'd only played 4 games 5th year or whatever, tried to rehab, tried to do all that, and just it didn't work out. So I was like a little, I could understand like they didn't love me back piece of it, but like I'm like, not to get sappy here, but like forever indebted to like those memories and everything like that.
Baseball did love you for a while there. It definitely did.
It was awesome. Like I wouldn't have like even in getting hurt, like I wouldn't trade a single second of it, you know? But like getting done, it is weird. Cause you're like, I never watched like MLB. Like I always grew up watching LSU games, like as a fan anyway. So like, I feel like I transitioned probably a little bit quicker back to a fan than I thought. Cause I kind of already had an opportunity to do that 5th year, you know, just like watching 56 games or whatever it is. But yeah, it was like, well, like, I guess too, like watching all the games, like I'd played with all those guys, you know, so I was like still rooting for them. And especially in 23, when obviously like we won the national championship, like I'd played with Cruz, I'd played with Gavin, Cade, you know, all those guys. So like I was rooting for those guys and was able to watch it as a fan rather than just like sitting there critically like, oh, I wonder what he's going to throw here. Like, but I had that at points, but like by that point it was like, yeah, just watch it as a fan.
Yeah. Well, it also was a different, you know, wasn't your coach, you know what I mean? Not that, I mean, I'm sure you and Jay Johnson, you know, had a nice relationship and all that. Not a hard guy to root for, I wouldn't say. Although he's got to do something about those long games. He really loves taking his time on those mound visits. Good Lord, dude. I guarantee you this weekend, one of those games is going to be at least 3 hours, 57 minutes, something like that.
Well, before pitch clock, they were like,
it was crazy.
Like 5-hour games or like just crazy shit. And you're like, dude, we gotta, like, I get it. Baseball's a longer sport, but we gotta figure this out.
Yeah, it's like at what point is the mind game like just not even a mind game? It's just prolonging the game for whatever. But no, I do think that's pretty funny. Okay, off the top, rapid fire before I let you get out of here. Give me the best, like the 3 best LSU teammates, like just the best players you played with, and then give me the best player you played against.
From a teammate perspective or talent?
Just like the best, like just the best baseball player. Like, yeah, don't give me the guy, the good locker room guy. Yeah. Give me the guy who was the nastiest out on the field.
1-1 Dylan Cruz. Obviously, I mean that's
pretty good one.
That's a no-brainer. Man, I was not.
It's crazy that you played with Kramer Robertson and Dylan Cruz.
Yeah,
that's a long LSU career. You binded two LSU eras together.
Well, like when Coach Mulkey like got signed at LSU, she threw out the first pitch that day, and I was the only person on the team that had played with Kramer. And she walks up to me. I'm like, Coach, what's going on? Congratulations. She's like, damn, you're still here. I was like, that's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
But Cruz for sure. Let's see. Got to throw Lang up there. I think he was pretty impressive. Man, let's see. At LSU specifically, I want to go Dykeman.
Keep in mind, you had a teammate in high school who was nasty on the mound.
Yeah. Oh, we're going back to high school. I mean, I changed my 1-1 then.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw. I just had one. Who was it? Oh shit.
Arm?
No, it was a position player. I think. Oh, Josh Smith for sure.
Oh, dude, Josh Smith. Yeah, he's having dude. I went and saw Josh when he got traded to the Rangers. He was in AA, and they like his first game once he got traded was here in Northwest Arkansas against he was playing for Frisco, the Frisco Rough Riders, and they were playing up against the Northwest Arkansas Natural. So I was like, dude, I'm pulling up at your AA debut, bro. What's up? Yeah. But it's cool. He's still playing for the Rangers. I mean, there's a ton of Rangers fans who listen to this show, so they'll appreciate you saying that. Right? Josh Smith, low key the man.
Yeah. Did you see his play last night?
No. Is he playing short for them?
He was playing first.
Oh, wow.
You go look it up. They hit a line drive right at him, and he just kind of throws his glove up and he catches it. But I guess he thought that it ricocheted off or somewhere, and he's scrambling, looking for the ball. You got to look it up after this.
I like that. And then players you played against. You did strike out Adley Rushman, by the way. Pretty good one. You struck out Paul Skeens.
I've got my one. Those were going to be my 1 and 2. So
yeah, but who is the guy that you remember as a pitcher being nervous up there? You were like, can't let this guy beat us.
Yeah. Let's see. Man, there were so many of them. Like just for reference, my year up in the Cape, I started the game that we were playing against Harwich, and their 1, 2, 3, 4 were Antoine Duplantis, Josh Smith, Jonathan India, and Kobe Vance from Alabama.
Oof.
Like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I was like, oh my God, this is different. But man, I think you diced up India at one point.
Yeah, not in the Cape. I don't think you diced up anybody in the Cape, but I think in the tournament you diced him up.
Yeah, it was. So I'd go 1-1 Paul Skeens, and not that he wasn't. I don't think he was Paul Skeens at that point. He was still a two-way guy. The game that I struck him out, he started as catcher, goes 8 innings behind the plate. I struck him out as a hitter, and then he goes and closes the 9th. 95, 98 as a freshman. We're like, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
And Cruz ends up hitting a home run off of him. And then Adley Rutschman faced him. We were down big in the World Series or in Omaha, but him, and then I may throw India in there. He was
I think India was player of the year that year. 2018 would have been. Yeah, there was somebody from Southern Miss. What was that kid's name? And now he's playing for the Braves. Waldron?
Matt Wallner.
Yeah, Matt Wallner. Yeah. And I think he's in the big leagues now. So that's a pretty good it's a pretty good one a feather in your cap, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I appreciate you for kicking it with me on today's episode of the Baumbastic Podcast, which is basically just me and my pal shooting the shit. But I did feel like you're more than qualified to just talk about SEC baseball, Arkansas-LSU. You've kind of become a weird prominent figure in the rivalry, at least in my personal life. But I look forward to seeing how many Hog fans comment or I remember this kid. Back then you had long blonde hair. I guess I should have pointed that out at the beginning. But I appreciate you joining me, man. And I'm looking forward to this week, man. I assume you're gonna be watching the games this weekend.
Yeah, we'll be. We're not going. We're going to Baton Rouge the following weekend. I think they're away that weekend, but yeah, we'll watch it this weekend. What's your prediction?
So, I don't know. The Hogs are coming off of such a good weekend, man. Tomorrow I'll have Kendall Rogers on. Maybe I'll have to lean on his brilliance, but I don't know. I don't like LSU's the one team in the league that like has a starting pitching situation that I look at. I'm like, damn, I wish we had that. Like every other team in the league, their starters are kind of hit or miss. They maybe have one guy that's good, but it's not. But LSU, and I know Sunday's kind of been the weird one with Shores kind of moving on from that role. But Ianson and Cade Anderson back, like those two guys back, like that's just every weekend. You know, you're getting like 6-7 innings. They're both, I think they're number 2 and number 3 in strikeouts. That's a lot. It's really hard in that venue to beat both of those guys. And so I'm kind of leaning towards LSU taking it 2 out of 3, but by the time the series rolls around, I know I will pick Arkansas taking 2 out of 3. Do you want to live up your prediction for your boys?
Yeah, I'll line them up. I think they'll split Friday, Saturday. Are they playing Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday?
No, it's Friday, Saturday. Yeah. Well, the weather's going to be a little bit of a factor. It could wind up being 2 Friday, 1 Saturday, 2 Saturday, 1, like something crazy, but it's supposed to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I think regardless, they'll split either Cade Anderson will win one, Ianson will win one, or vice versa. I think if we win both of those, then get the brooms out because
interesting.
Got bad news, but
I'm just telling you, these boys are not sweeping to these pigs.
No, I don't think so. That's what I'm saying. I think they'll split Friday, Saturday, and I think Sunday will be like the stereotypical just grind out a rubber match, Johnny Holstaff, like
no
arms off limits, But I think the Tigers edge them out, unfortunately.
Okay, I can respect it at least. I can respect. I mean, you couldn't, as a former Tiger, you couldn't come on here and be like, yeah, pigs got them. Just say, y'all take that. You're coming into the box and getting us. But yeah, man, appreciate you for real, Matt. I'll let you get back to doing your actual job. Matt has gone pro in something other than sports, and we wish him well in his journey. But Matt, appreciate you, man. We'll get you back on the pod at some point. I guess next year when Arkansas-LSU, we got you penciled in. Clear your schedule for that Wednesday, buddy. But you have a good one, man. I really appreciate you, and you're the man.
All right, love you, pal.
All righty, appreciate everybody. That's been this episode of the Baumbastic Podcast. Have a great one.